Hi, I'm Melanie from Parenting High Schoolers, and I'm here today to talk to you about helping your kid as they enter their college freshman year. And really, a lot of this advice would be good for kids moving into high school or even middle school. I mean, generally, the information would be the same. I'm doing a series on how to adapt to new situations, and this is such a big thing. A lot of our kids get to college and they have high anxiety and stress, and I think a lot of it could be eliminated if we could talk to our kids. They have so many questions that they don't even know to ask. And we assume, I think wrongly, a lot of times that they already know some of these things that are to us common sense, but to them, it's a lot. And they're worried and thinking about probably different things than we are. And so here's some basic tips to help our kids move into the next situation. So I'm going to gear it towards college, but again, you could gear it down for high school or middle school. Understand that this is not where you came from. So if you are talking to a teen that's going into college, they need to understand that it's not high school. And so on a certain level, they know that, but everything will be different. Same if they're moving from middle school to high school or elementary to middle school. And for us, this seems like, okay, no brainer. That obviously they know that. And they do, but they just don't know how different things are going to be. So you might talk to them about how it's going to look when they want to go eat a meal, or where they might go to study, or how they're going to get different places, because every single place will be completely different. These seem like no-brainer types of topics, but our kids will not be thinking about that. They'll be worried about, will I fit in and will I make friends and those kinds of things. Well, let's talk about logistics and help them get through a day. And then some of that other stuff won't be quite so stressful. All right, they need to take breaks. So that's going to look different again at whatever level they're at. They need to take breaks to study. They also need to take breaks to have fun. So there's two different kinds of breaks. So they need to take a break from the fun and make sure they're getting their work accomplished, that they're staying on top of their assignments, that they are studying for their tests, that they're writing their papers. But they also need to build in, and this is something as they're planning out a week, they need to be sure that they are taking breaks to have fun. It sounds weird to take a break to study, but a lot of times they get caught up in the fun of whatever new place they're at, and they kind of forget about why they're there. So you want to remind them that those are a couple things to think about. They need to put themselves out there. I'm an introvert, and so for me, this was really hard. But if they can find a friend to get them to go do things with, to join a new club together, or to go to a concert on campus that night together, or someone down the hall if they're at college, that maybe they go to the dorm meeting, or whatever the case may be. Same with middle school and high school. If there's a dance, get a friend and just go and have fun. So they need to put themselves out there and try new things. And again, it's easier if they have a friend, but you know what? Sometimes there's not going to be anybody and they just need to go. The worst thing that's going to happen is they don't have fun and they go home. But they need to try. Okay, they need to be able to learn from the situation, whatever it is. If they are struggling in a class, they need to know that they should probably talk to the teacher or to the professor or to email them. They need to learn that some friends are going to be different kinds of friends. Like there's going to be friends that are in their dorm, but there's also going to be friends that they make in class. And then there's going to be the kind of friend that they have that's going to be around all the time. There's all kinds of things that they're going to learn, but if they're struggling, they also need to learn to ask for help. They need to call you. They need to talk to a friend. There's counselors on campus. Whatever the problem is, it can be solved. They need to learn that change is okay. They may change their mind about their major. They may decide they don't like their roommate. They probably have to muddle through that year, but there are going to be so many changes happening in their life, and they just need to sort of learn to adapt and roll with it. And so this is a reason why when they're in middle school and high school and things happen, we need to help let them figure things out on their own. We're there for advice, giving them feedback, but we need to be sure that we are encouraging them to solve their own problems. They need to stay organized. This is a huge thing, and the higher academically they get, the more organized they need to be. So they need to work out some of these systems on their own. And if you're doing their work for them, or you're organizing their papers for them, or whatever the case may be, teach them what you're doing and then stop. They've got to do this for themselves. Put an effort into keeping in touch. They need to stay in touch with you and their grandmas and grandpas and friends from home, but they also need to move on. They cannot constantly be looking at what are their friends from home doing on social media. They cannot always be looking back. They need to be looking at now and in the future. Encourage them to really be present in the now and not caught up in that social comparison trap. All right, planning ahead. They need to be sure that as they are working their way through middle school or high school or college, that they know, or they at least start to think about what is next. How are they going to get there? Who do they need to talk to? What do they need to have prepared? Do they need a resume? Do they need letters of reference? Do they need, what kind of grades do they need? All those kinds of things are very important pretty much at all of those levels. We need to be sure that as they are growing up, we are teaching them how to deal with stress. Are they exercising? Are they eating right? Are they getting enough sleep? And these are things that a lot of times they need to figure out for themselves. Do some experiments. We did some experiments in my house where one week I let them go to bed whenever they wanted. And I had to bite my tongue and let them do what they were going to do. And then the next week, I followed my plan. And I tried to keep it pretty reasonable. I didn't say, okay, you have to go to bed at 8. But I backed, I was like, okay, I think 10:30 or 11 is reasonable. You're old enough to figure out what is going to work for you. And then they realized, oh yeah, I felt better when I did get my sleep. So do some experimentation. Help them figure out where is their balance. And like I mentioned this earlier, that social comparison trap is so easy for our kids to get caught up into. Make sure that you are helping your children, your teens, to know that their life is so much fun and so important, and it doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. And I know that's an easy thing to say, but the more involved they are, the more strategies they have for managing their organization, for keeping their stress level down, and for getting involved, the less they're going to want to compare themselves to someone else. Good luck to your teens that are getting ready to go into the next arena of wherever they're going to be. And remember, a lot of this is good for if they're leaving college or leaving high school, either one, for the real world. All of these pieces of advice are good for that too. I'll see you next week.